My guest today is a great friend of mine, having started out on the same late bloomer acting journey with me in 2013, where we met on day one of a 12-month acting course in Adelaide. We like to refer to each other as our on-screen husband and wife after we performed our first stage experience together for a scene from the play Speaking in Tongues by Andrew Bovell. In 2015, she was fortunate to partake in a full year-long acting program with Melbourne's Film and Television Studio International. She continues to participate regularly in acting masterclasses and workshops, including the wonderful Anthony Brandon Sydney, as well as having spent almost 2 years in the US exploring the craft. In 2017, now having moved to Sydney, Australia, she again stepped on stage for a standout role in the play Calendar Girls, based on the movie of the same name. A true story of a group of Yorkshire women who produced a nude calendar in 1999 to raise money for leukemia, where she played Celia, described as the show pony of the girls in the story. This role was described by Sydney's The Daily Telegraph as the role she was born to play. More recently, she has performed a guest role in the long-running series Deadly Women. She heralds from England, but moved to Australia with her husband and her 2 wonderful children, now grown. She is also a singer in her own right, regularly performing at local gigs. Please welcome to the podcast, the wonderful Jacqui Darbyshire.
Hi, David. Thank you for that lovely intro.
I didn't get anything wrong, did I?
No, you didn't. You didn't.
Beautiful.
Are you stalking me?
I am. I know about you.
Okay, hubby number 2.
And it's all authorised by hubby number 1, correct?
Certainly is, yeah. He's just set me up with all the techno bits because I'm a technophobe, so God bless him.
That's beautiful.
Thank you, Ian.
And everything seems to be working.
It does, yeah. Good. That's to him, not me.
And that's the thing with us late bloomers, is some are better at the technological side than others.
Yes, I think you're probably push all the boundaries on that. I think you're a bit of a guru on the technical side. I always phone a friend, you, and say, help me, I don't know what I'm doing.
Now, your background, I know a lot about you, your UK roots, having seen pictures of your old home and that sort of stuff, but I know a little bit about your family. But can you just give us a little bit more info about yourself before you come to Australia? So where you grew up, what you did for a living, was there anything in your acting history back in the UK?
Okay, wow, okay, I can dig back here. So when I was 5 years old, I used to go every week. My parents didn't have a lot of money, but I used to go, every year away with my grandparents to a caravan park in Clacton, because I'm from Essex. And that was our holidays. That's all, we could afford, or my parents could afford. And one year I went, and luckily my parents actually came. They could afford to not only send us with my grandparents, but also come themselves for a week. And at 5 years old, I got up on stage and sang a Shirley Temple song. And it was the Good Ship Lollipop. And I actually won the competition. And, I think the bit that won it, my parents said, was the bit where she goes, I've got a cute face, a monkey guitar, and I've got the legs, sort of thing. And so I won the competition, but sadly, my parents never did anything about it because they came from an era where, acting wasn't a real job, or, you need to get money in, you need to do, the old-fashioned way, I would say, of doing stuff.
You have to have a real job.
Yeah, that sort of thing. So I didn't do anything with anything. So I didn't sing, I didn't play any musical instruments, certainly didn't act. And then I had my own children, and I wanted them to have the opportunities. So they both did acting. They both played 3 instruments. I went and did plays with them. My daughter was in Les Mis, all of this, that and the other. They don't do any of that now, but they had the opportunity. And that's really, to be honest with you, when I got very sick later on, I decided to, it was actually, I was in New York with my daughter, and my husband decided that I should do stuff for myself, and that started my acting career. So up from 5 years old until being a late bloomer, which I'm not going to tell you what my age is, but anyway, a late bloomer, I decided that that's when it started for me. And honestly, I can honestly tell you, I felt like I'd come home. That first time with you in Actors Inc., and we did that week, and then we carried on doing, I just thought, this is my purpose. This is my calling. Oh my God, I've got a voice. So from 5 years old up until that stage, I hadn't done anything at all. But I'd got so much glee and happiness and joy from watching my children do it all. I just didn't think about myself until it came to a point where I knew that it was the right time to do it. So that's sort of what I did. Job-wise, to be honest with you, I became a police officer when I was 18. I was in the police force for only 3 years and I had my son. I then became a homeopathic kinesiologist because my daughter's immune system failed. So again, very changed tacks because I needed to. So I'm very much driven by whatever things are presented to me. In those circumstances, I will do my utmost best to be the best version of myself and help, whether it's others or help the family or do whatever. And I guess with acting, it's the same sort of thing. It's that family of acting because you're always, helping the other actor because that's the whole thing about it. It's not about you, it's about them. So
but the other person,
yeah.
Yes.
So for me personally, it feels like I've done full circle and come home. If that makes sense.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Beautiful. And prior to your acting journey, which started here in Adelaide, so what brought you to Australia?
Okay, when the children were 2 and 4 years old, Ian had been doing a job for a New Zealand company bringing PET into England. And the New Zealand company said, we can either pay you a consultancy fee or we can buy tickets for you to fly around the world. So me and Ian, being adventurous as we are, and the children my daughter was 2 in Florida actually, we just said, let's take off 3 months. The job's still there when you get back because he'd done all this hard work. And we literally packed our bags and hopped around the world with the kids. And he went for an interview in Florida and also New Zealand. And we came to Sydney. And I kid you not, we fell in love with Sydney. Okay, we loved it. We loved Australia. And it was a guy called Freddie Truman, who's a famous cricketer in the UK. When we got back, he asked me to come and look at Adelaide because he said it was the best pitch to play cricket on in the world.
It is, still is.
And it is, it's amazing. It's beautiful. I mean, the way they've done it now is beautiful as well. But so we came.
Now, for just to clarify for all our American listeners, cricket is a slower form of baseball.
if you say so. Yeah, probably. So, yeah.
Sorry, go on.
So that's why we came to Adelaide, because Fred said, please go and look at Adelaide. And I kid you not, we came to Australia, we applied for visas, and we went through all the hoops of getting visas, as everyone knows. And we came out and we travelled around, had a look. We fell in love with Adelaide. We got back home to Yorkshire, where the Calendar Girls is from. You're absolutely spot on with that. We got back home to Yorkshire and it was freezing cold. It was February and it had been cold for 2 months. And we sat and said, okay, guys, and bearing in mind our kids were quite grown up then, they were teenagers. And we said, okay, what are we doing? Are we putting this to bed or are we going for it? And we all said, we're going to go for it. And I said, okay, in a hat, you write the name of where you want to live in Australia. We'll put it in the hat. We've got our Yorkshire cups of tea and we had to write where it was. And so I sat there and I put my hand in the hat. I opened one and it said Adelaide. Next one, Adelaide. Third one, Adelaide. So I looked at my son and I went, you've said Sydney, haven't you? And anyway, I put it out, Adelaide. It was unreal.
Wow.
So for Adelaide.
Beautiful.
So that's how we ended up in Adelaide.
Arguably the best city in Australia, right?
It's the hidden gem.
Yes.
It's the hidden gem. It's beautiful.
That's beautiful. So how long were you in Adelaide before we met?
Probably 3 years, because I worked for the first, maybe even 4. I worked for the first 2 years in helping a company out that was losing a lot of money. So I helped to swing them around and grow their business. And then I worked in tourism for a while. And my daughter had been offered a scholarship to go to New York with her architecture and she didn't want to go on her own. And she said to me, Mum, I don't want to go on my own to New York. Would you would you come with me? And I sort of went, hell yeah. So I said, yeah. So I packed my bags and went with her. And while she worked hard, I explored New York and looked at acting bits and pieces because I was interested. I looked at Lee Strasberg and bits and pieces. But it was while I was away, that's when I was very, very sick. And then Ian said to me, you've done everything for everybody all your life. I want you to do something for yourself. So I've actually booked you onto Actors Inc. And that's when you and I met. So probably,
Beautiful.
Yeah, probably about 3.5, 4 years.
Wow, well, that's cool. Because I never knew what got you into Actors Inc. So that was your husband saying, time for you, Jacqui, to do yourself.
Yeah, because he knew that I'd always wanted to act and sing for a long time, but I wanted to make sure everybody else was doing their stuff. You know, Megan was off flying in architecture. My son was then living in Sydney doing his stuff here. And Ian was, you know, entrenched in Rundle Mall, all the refurb of that and everything. So then it was, everybody was happy doing their stuff. And then that's when, you know, yeah, that's when I became, my journey started, and it's been an amazing one. Still is.
Beautiful. And that, you know, that's how we met. I think we clicked on day one, didn't we? And obviously neither of us knew our history or background, but there was just something there, that way we took the classes on together and approached every scene. And I think we both had that nervousness about, what the hell am I doing here? I remember, I mean, I still have it today, but I think we've discussed it before, that we both struggled through the process and saying, what are we doing? Is this, and the whole class was full of young people.
Yeah, it was. I mean, the one thing I can say to you is that, because I remember writing that we had to write a monologue. I still remember it to this day. And that monologue was about loving two people at once. And we had to do a monologue, and I couldn't find a monologue that I liked. So I wrote my own. And I know I pushed the boundaries, because you weren't supposed to read your own monologue out, but I decided to do it after weeks of actually, you know, doing the course. But the one thing I guess the nervousness, which I'm like you, I still get as well. I think it's because I really want to do a great job, you know. But the one thing that I think we were both hungry for our passion. And I'm still hungry to this day. That hunger never goes, of doing the next or recreating something here, or doing, no matter whether you're with youngsters or late bloomers, or, you know, people who are late bloomers or whatever. It's that passion and it's that hunger and that drive that seems to eventually or steady the nerves, I should say, that sort of thing. So, but yeah, I mean, I don't think you're ever too old to do anything in life, really. Even if you're 94 and you decide to go and join acting classes, if that's really what you know, if it's your calling or your knowing or your passion, you should just do it. Like, just do it. And the youngsters are great anyway. You know, even sometimes it's good to be mum or dad or whatever sometimes.
Yeah, and I think we brought a lot to the class because of that. If you compare, because most of the class were those young people, so us, I would say, we brought a different perspective to their learning journey. So it'd be interesting to know whether they actually look back today, wherever their acting career is, and say, you know, I really got a lot out of working with some older actors in my early days, so to speak.
It's really interesting you should say that. I actually got a text from Rachel the other day, and she still calls me MJ, which is Mama J.
Beautiful.
And so, you know, there's still that connection the one thing I love about acting and going to either acting classes, acting school, masterclasses, hanging out with coaches, it's like a family, extended family, and there's a desire and a want to help. That's what I love about it. I've just been doing stuff with AMA here in Sydney, and it's like a big family. It's pretty amazing in that respect. So, yeah, you do make connections, whether it be young, old, or, you know, whatever. I think it's probably, the acting world is not judgmental.
No, definitely not. Definitely not. So just a bit further on our course, I think the biggest moment for me, and probably for both of us, was that term 3, our first stage experience. It was so much to learn. I mean, we didn't do a whole stage show, but we did one scene from Andrew Bovell's play, and it was nerve-wracking from what I remember, wasn't it? Just the thought of knowing all those lines and the blocking and then being able to get up on stage and do it. I think it was a good 20 minutes scene of constant talking, wasn't it?
It was, and it was trying also, it was, because I'm dyslexic, and so I had this big worry that I would get a brain freeze. And, you know, I couldn't remember my lines, or I was going to stuff up lines for you, and then I'd put you off. And so it was always that, I was constantly that battle of fighting and that sort of thing. But at the same time, I just know I needed to do it. So that fear, you almost, it overrides, you know, it's a bizarre sort of thing to say, but once you and I were on stage, I mean, what I know now, like having done it now for a few years, what I understand now is that actually it's like putting an old pair of slippers back on, you know, they're comfy, you know, that sort of thing. So I understand even more now from what I've learned. But that first initial thing it was just you and me on that stage. I had no idea the audience was there because I was more concerned about you and I and us and what we were doing, to the extent where obviously I knew the audience was there, but I was there for you, and that seemed to, for me, that seemed to be the right way to go. It was like it was just us. So, and I just remember, I think it changed on stage, didn't it? That night it wasn't acting anymore. I remember feeling it felt like we were there, we were the characters. And yes, you knew the audience was there and you were still thinking lines and lines, but it was almost like it was real and you weren't an actor anymore. I still remember, you're absolutely right, I still remember, you know, the bit about the shoe in the backyard. It's like, why did they throw the shoe in the backyard? I remember those lines. I still remember those lines and that scene to this day. I think maybe it's like your first love. You do your first bit and you go, I remember that forever, sort of thing. So
he's certainly doing better than me. I don't remember any of my lines. But I do remember the scene. I remember the story, and I just remember how we worked off each other, and, you know, your character's nature that was on stage and my incredulous behaviour going, what are you doing? What are you doing outside? So, such a great story.
It was an amazing scene to do for our first scene, and the lady that helped us choose that, I think she had chosen for both you and I think they were perfect characters for both you and I. You know, your inquiring mind, you know, being an actor is like being like a detective, you know, you got to pick all the bits and pieces out. So, and then my character, she was, you know, not knowing what she was doing in life, and then, you know, and it was a very interesting scene to choose. And I think no matter what, in everything you do, there's always a little, at that particular time, there may be a little something in your persona that it pulls out something, because basically it's you, even though you've got the character, but it's still you. Like, it was David and Jacqui on that stage, even though we were the characters. It's still us, and I think that's part of acting. I think if you can flavour it with you get the honesty there, and that's what we had on that stage that night. So.
And I think this name and teacher's going to come out in every podcast of mine. He's already come out in my first one, but because we've done Jeff Seymour together.
We have.
AKA the real life actor. And I think that's what he espouses, doesn't it? About, you know, the very nature of his book is the real life actor. It's about being real to a scene. And I think we had that before we even met him. And I remember when I first saw a YouTube video of him, which caused me to actually reach out and bring him to Australia, which is when we met him. It just resonated so much because I hadn't had any background training in all the, you know, the established training regimes, but I'd heard about the method and using colours and what animal am I playing. As soon as I read Jeff, it just made sense. So what would I do if I'm a father and I'm just about to tell my wife that my son or daughter had died. You know, I don't need to think of a colour or an animal. That, I mean, what would you do if that was you? You just go and do it.
And that's the whole thing, because I know you were the person that talked to me about Jeff, and then I was very, very, very blessed to get to LA, and I did some sessions with Jeff over, obviously, like we are, before I got there. But then I got to actually work with him in studio, and oh my gosh, I remember doing a scene from Closer with another guy there, and it was like, it was breathtaking, because I was actually doing, like you're saying, I was just working with this other guy who was called Jeff. I was working with him, and it was like we were husband and wife having this major, argument about sleeping with somebody and being with somebody else. And it was like, what would I be like if, and that's what Jeff Seymour taught me. He said, what would you do, Jacqui? Don't give me any of this, just be yourself. And so I worked with him while I was in LA, and God bless him, he moved house and went to his housewarming party and stuff, which was lovely too. And so in a way, I have you to thank for that. And then obviously I was very blessed to work with him, and still, hopefully when I get back to LA, I still will be doing that as well when I go back next time. So I do think if you can just be your natural self, you don't have to try hard. Like we're talking now naturally to each other. We're not trying to be anything more than we are. And I think in acting, if you can do that, it becomes effortless. And if you're with the other person, even the words and the lines, like they somehow, drop in. And I never thought I'd say that, but they do. And you don't have to be perfect either. You do not have to be perfect with everything. I think that's the other thing I've learned, is to stop being Penelope perfect all the time, because
people aren't perfect.
No, and on stage, we can like when you're in theatre, it's different, I know, but so you learn the lines, you get the cues for the other actor, you work with the other actor, you become one with the other actor. But you know what? If the other actor drops his lines, you know the story well enough, and you know them to steer it back on course. You don't have to panic about it. And in obviously TV and film, you can get chances, you can, do takes, and although time is money and everything. But, if you sometimes, even when you do stuff up, those stuff up moments can be the best moments that they go, oh. So I have learned so much from my journey, and have done so much, and have been blessed to have worked with so many different people since I started, and going to LA, going to New York, obviously going down to Melbourne with 16th Street, Adelaide, here in Sydney, Anthony, Ben Matthews. Now I've been working with Ben for the last 18 months. Amazing guy. I worked with him years ago. Amazing person to work with. Getting up on stage, doing that, going on film. And I've been doing this probably since obviously, lockdowns and everything. I think I said to you earlier on, acting and before we locked down was brilliant. Even doing Zoom classes, it's brilliant. It's just like kept me personally, it's kept my sanity going in the hard times that actors and, artists, musicians, people, like any artists, whatever, it's been tough. And so God bless Zoom classes, I say, even though I know people hate them sometimes. I personally don't, but...
Well, that's been a positive probably for artists out of COVID, isn't it? It's because, yes, all the sets were shut down, so they weren't getting money, but a lot of the creative teachers and instructors out there, they've come forward with opportunities, both paid and unpaid, and a lot of them have said, pay us what you can. If you can't, that's fine. But it's actually opened up the training regime to the whole world, because if you're based in Adelaide or Perth, you were really restricted with your training, but now you can do a Zoom call with ACA from Sydney or
you can
TAFTA in Melbourne. It's brilliant.
Absolutely. You can certainly do whatever. There's an array of options here in Australia for acting. You know, there's never a dull moment here, let's face it. You can find something. If you really want to do something, you can find something in Australia. That's the amazing thing about it.
So we're coming up on 10 years since we started together. So it was 2013. So next year is our 10-year anniversary of starting on this journey. Now, just through default and where we're at, we're both sort of taken different paths. You've moved to Sydney. You've done all your time in the States, which is great. And you have a rolling training regime. So you've done a lot of different courses because you obviously get a lot from it. Me, I haven't, purely because I still work 50 hours a week, and you know, cost is a factor for me. So I do what I can and then try to get my experience on set, whether it's with the student or indie films. So from all the training, all the different courses, what are you taking away from that concert training, so to speak? How is that changing you? Where is that sending you as an actor?
I am picking up more and more tools for my toolbox, okay? So the different people I work with offer different bits and pieces, but by doing more and more different things, my confidence has grown. So if I'm not getting it one way, I can try a different way. And so I now have an array of ways to approach stuff. So, and that means also working with different actors as well, because everybody's different. Everybody has their little quirks and their ways. And, you know, some people just like to be left alone, quiet while they're doing stuff, you know, which is fine. Or some people want to talk or whatever. So now, because I've got so many tools in my toolbox, it doesn't matter who gets thrown at me. It's almost like you can cut your cloth according to what's going on in that situation. So a lot of stuff doesn't throw me now. It used to, because I was so nervous, but now it doesn't throw me. And I just really enjoy, I guess the thing about acting is you're always learning, and you will learn until the day you die. And I love that, because you don't get bored with anything. You might get frustrated sometimes because you want things to happen faster, or you know, you go for that audition and you don't get it and you really want it. But then you also understand that, you know, you and I could rock up for an audition and you get the audition because I wasn't quite the right fit. And it's nothing to do with me personally. It's just that I wasn't the right fit. But it means that you've got the audition, which I would be ecstatic, jumping up and down, you know, for going, hey, sort of thing. But there will be something else out there, and there is always something else. That's the thing that I have learned, is that there is definitely always something else. Acting's a sort of thing is that you give up on acting doesn't give up on you, because there's always something.
Exactly. And you're saying with all your toolboxes that now when you get the different moments, are you finding that the need to use a different tool is now starting to come subconsciously rather than, oh, I need to take that tool out? So you're in a scene and then all of a sudden at the end of the scene you go, oh my God, I've did something completely unexpected.
Yes, that's what I mean. That's having the array of tools gives you the confidence and the really solid foundations to stand on, knowing full well that you don't have to think about it. It just comes naturally. So it becomes a very natural thing to do. So I don't really worry about, I used to worry so much about lines and everything. And that's the one thing working with Ben Matthews, I don't have to worry about the lines. And I did the full length play, so I don't know why I was worrying about the lines, but it took me a little while to unravel. And then doing the Deadly Women TV series, that was so much fun, like so much fun. So, and I had all the tools in the toolbox. And I remember the director saying to me, wow, we haven't had to do many takes with you at all. You're very easy.
Beautiful.
And so I sort of knew, because I'd had all of those tools and all of the knowing and stuff like that. It was just easy to go in, do my job, come back out again, still have the connection with everybody. But it was really fun to do. So
it's beautiful. So now that you're in Sydney and you've, you know, this journey from Actors Inc. here in Adelaide to the US and Sydney, now you're based in Sydney. what's the acting environment like in Sydney? Are you finding it easy? Are you finding it hard? I think you've got an agent and stuff. Where are we at on the working side of things?
I've got an agent. I had an audition a couple of weeks ago. I would say it's been starting to open up a bit more because it was shut down for a while. Yes, I think at this point in time, maybe I'm not quite sure whether they're looking for, I think they're looking for more diversity at the moment. So there's probably not.
It's very big.
Yeah. I think there's maybe not so much around for me per se, because I'm in a niche market, being a late bloomer, which I'm happy about. I don't mind.
And you have, because your accent is clearly English, isn't it? You can't go in and pull off an Australian accent.
Well, the funny thing was, I had to do for Deadly Women. I had to do an Italian accent, so I had to learn an Italian accent which was amazing. I did it in a week. Actually, I got the boys around at the boatyard who are purely Italian. They recorded all my lines for me, spoke them, and I walked around with headphones in, saying "my husband dead," sort of thing, the whole. And when I got on set, the director said to me, "Could you possibly become a little bit more American Italian?" And I was like, "Sure." So I sort of mixed the two and did the best of things. So it was good. But yeah, I do try. I wouldn't say I've been trying with the American accent a little bit more because of spending time. So I probably have a little bit more of a softer approach. The Australian accent, I'm still a little bit like Kath and Kim. It's maybe a little bit less polished, but I try. But I've been talking to people about that, and there's more and more accents coming in. So if you look at the UK and you look at America, in roles, there's more and more accents coming into the films and stuff like that. So, and even in plays. So I think, maybe that'll open a door up. In other words, it's probably becoming a little bit more relaxed about accents.
Especially with modern stories. Obviously, if you're making a historical story, you have to stick to the time and the frame. But more modern stories now are all character-based. And I think casting directors are open to different people, different backgrounds, regardless. So they might say, we're looking for this type of person. A lot of the Zoom calls I've been on with casting directors have said, we'll bring in some outsiders just to say, hey, let's consider this. So I think that's a good thing.
Yeah.
I completely believe in the need for diversity. I think it's been a big thing in America and changing on screen now. A lot of people are saying Australia is still far behind. I think we're catching up very quickly. If you watch shows at the moment, it's very good.
Yeah, it's, as I said, I spoke to one of the casting directors here a couple of years ago on the accent thing. And he said, watch this space, it's happening. And I agree with you, David. It definitely has been coming more and more in. And I think it will come, even faster, probably in the next year or two, certainly.
So in your acting journey so far, what have been your best and worst moments, if any, or one or the other?
Well, I absolutely loved doing the Calendar Girls play because it's a true story. I lived in Yorkshire, and the house where I lived, which I actually still have, was up the road to the original real Calendar Girls whose husband died of cancer. So she was my Pilates teacher, believe it or not.
Wow, that's so close to home, isn't it? That's awesome.
It was just amazing to be offered the role. I tell you, when I was offered the role, I burst into tears because I felt that I was actually reliving the story of what, because I was in the fundraising. I should have been in the movie as an extra, but I was on holiday, would you believe? And it would have been so amazing because I got offered to be an extra in the actual original movie, but I couldn't do it. So then when I got off this role, honestly, it was just meant to be. It was one of those moments where you just knew it. And I absolutely loved playing Celia because she was the one that had to take her clothes off, be on, stand there on stage nude, basically, which I'd never done in my life. And that was probably, inside I was dying a death. But then it was totally unreal sort of thing. So I just basically loved that role because of the connections I have and still have with the people in Yorkshire. And it was like I was doing a service to them, saying, you know, what sort of time they went through when they were doing this whole, you know, sort of brainstorming, crazy, because they were the first people that did the nude calendars, and then everybody jumps on the back. So I would say that's probably, because it's a personal thing, I would say that's probably one of the best things I've done. And I've still made so many friends still to this day. One of my very, very good friends, Todd, he would always be there when I was stripping off backstage. And he won't mind me saying this, but I was stripping off backstage. I'd be there just stripping off, and he'd always turn his head that way. And I'd always say to him, Beautiful. "Oh, Todd, you know, have I turned you straight yet?" And he'd go, "No, you never will." So we've had this laugh about it. But yeah, he was.
I love it.
He's a very close buddy. You do make friends, actually.
And I remember talking to you about, I think we spoke just before you started the show itself, and I think you've come out of it a better person and a better actor. Would you agree with that?
Do you mean starting with acting, or?
No, with doing the plays.
Yes, for sure. That's when I realised people are not perfect. People did make mistakes on stage. But when you know it so well, like know it back to front, it doesn't matter if somebody makes a mistake, because you just go, oh, and then you just add something in to veer everybody back on track again. And that a really thoughtful actor does. You know, it's not to make the other person feel like, oh, they've made a mistake or anything. It's like, oh, well, it just happens. And then you get them back on track, or they get you back on track, and it all goes swimmingly. And sometimes it works out even funnier. It makes the joke more funnier, or without even trying, you know, sort of thing, with the comedy side of it. So, or it could be that you become even more authentic if you're doing a monologue, and, you know, you might turn around and say something that's not quite 100%, you know, if you know what I mean. And then it becomes even more authentic because you've actually said it from your heart. So
exactly.
Yeah, I definitely, for me, I was first time, I guess, I don't, praise is a bit of a hard thing for me, but I was very proud of myself for doing Calendar Girls, and, you know, doing the 5 shows a week for 7 weeks. And it was
Was it that long?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
And they wanted us to do even more shows, but the director decided we'd done enough. And I think I could have carried on going, because I was just on. It was just such a beautiful story. My character was wonderful. The crowd, the people that came to watch us, they were wonderful. And also, you know, the crew and the other actors. It was just one of those things. And I'm not saying we didn't have our moments, because there's always teething issues, and, you know, people get tired and stuff like that. But no matter what, we were professional. Every single night we did the utmost, the best of what we could. And we had, funny enough, I had somebody come back 3 times to watch the play.
Wow. That's nice. So did you come, are you looking at your direction now a lot different after doing that wonderful show? Like, do you feel like I'm 100% committed now? I mean, I know you were before, but what I'm trying to say is, I know I have those ups and downs where I get to the troughs of something happens, or I'm just having a bad week, and I'm going, why am I doing this? Am I good enough for this? Are you able to draw on that positive energy now and say, no, I'm going?
It's really funny. I don't get many of those moments anymore, because I think downs, because I think I feel very grateful to be doing what I'm doing, and whatever comes at me, I'll do. I had a little moment probably about 6 months ago where I just thought, there's nothing happening, you know, maybe this is it, or my time's over, or whatever. And then all of a sudden something came, and you go, or you do something and you go, it's really funny. You know what, when it's under your skin and in your blood, you know, no matter what, even if you have, it's a bit like a relationship, you get, you know, a bit annoyed sometimes with each other and everything, but you still love that person. But it's a bit like that, you know, sort of thing. So for me, if I'm feeling in any way like that, I just take a step back, and, you know, no matter what, I always go back. There's a drive in me, David, that I can't explain. It's like Like I said, it's under my skin. If I don't sing, I'm miserable. I tell you, if I don't sing daily, I'm the most miserablest person on this earth. I have to get up and sing. And I did my first gig last Thursday, and I got told my energy was infectious and, you know, people were smitten and whatever. And it's just that I'm singing from my heart. So I just love it. And the same with acting. If I don't do it, or if I don't go to grow my craft or to grow me as a person or as an actor, if I don't do it, it's like, I don't know, it's a bit like not being able to brush your teeth or something.
Yeah, fair enough.
It's that sort of thing for me now. So those down moments are, I would say, are less.
Beautiful, beautiful. And so do you think everything you've learnt on that journey then, what would you say to other actors, whether they're old like us just starting out or newbies just starting out? What one piece of advice would you give a new actor?
I would say you're never too old, you're never too young to do anything in life. And if you really, really want to do it and you have the will to do it, it will happen. You just, you know, my maiden name's Armstrong, okay? And if you get the coat of arms out, it basically says never been conquered. That's Armstrong. And my married name, Darbyshire, is in love and faith. So I have those two. I will never be conquered, but I'm always coming from love and faith. So if you can hold on to that, just go for your life and do it. No, the only person stopping you is you. It's
beautiful.
That's it. The only person, nobody else is stopping you. It's just you stopping you. It's either fear of not being good enough, or nerves, or oh, that's not quite right for me, or I'm never going to get it, or whatever. It's you stopping you. Nobody else is stopping you. I would be encouraging you to do it. I would be saying to you, the casting directors want you to win. They do. They want you to be the person that walks in and they say, you're the one, sort of thing.
Exactly.
They're out there. So I would say, don't stop yourself. You know, just have love and faith, and it will happen.
Beautiful. All right. And the last question before we go into the fast round and wind this up so you can get back to everything. This is a very cliched question, I think, across, and it's asked a lot, but in your acting journey, do you think you're making it yet? Or what would you consider making it to be on your journey?
Do I think I'm making it yet? My honest answer is, are we ever going to make it? In the respect of, do you think we're ever going to make it? Because we are making it. We're in the making of it. So therefore, I don't think I ever want this to stop. So have I made it yet? I'm not quite sure if, in other words, I'll still be doing this, you know, probably 95 years old and still be doing this, you know, and getting different roles and everything. So yeah, I would say that's, but do I want more? Absolutely. Yes. Absolutely. Beautiful. So whatever comes my way, I feel blessed and I'm grateful. So
I love it. Okay. Now, this is what I call the fast round. 4 questions that are vary from podcast to podcast, but with 2, question 1 and 4 are the same for everyone. So 1, if you can think of it offhand, what is your T-shirt quote, or what would your T-shirt quote be?
HHH&H, okay, which stands for healthy, happy, harmonious with hope. I think I've learned that in these last few years. And be true to self. That's what I'd probably have on my T-shirt.
What colour?
Blue. Blue. I love blue.
Blue. My favourite colour too. What's your favourite old-time TV show or movie?
Oh.
Not saying that we're old.
It's got to be, for me, it's got to be Pretty Woman. I love Pretty Woman.
Beautiful.
I love Pretty Woman. Yeah.
Oh, it's a great movie. I was just listening to a podcast the other day and they were talking about the scene when he's got the jewellery in the case and she goes to look at it with a finger and he snaps it closed. That was all, the camera was still filming. The scene wasn't actually on and she was just having a look and Richard Gere's just snapped it shut and then she's done her laugh and that made the movie. So that brings it back to what we were talking about before, that there's moments that can just make it work for you.
And I think that's what I'm meaning with be true to self. Be your true self, because if you are, you'll get those moments on camera. You don't even have to try. They're gold moments.
Beautiful. Is there a particular actor that inspired you to get into acting, or is there an actor that inspires you to keep going today, or that you'd like to work with?
You know, like loads of people used to ask me that growing up, who's your favourite actor and stuff like that. I never had a really favourite one. I do like, I suppose I've looked at Meryl Streep's, the way she changes everything. And growing up, I grew up with Madonna, so she was always edgy, and I quite like that because I'm a bit edgy too. So I suppose those two were sort of the nice, sort of like a difference between those two, if I'm honest about it. So, but favourite actors, I don't know, they've all got their differences. I tell you who I have and I've read just recently is Matthew McConaughey. I got gifted his book. And I love his quotes and everything in there. Nothing's impossible, you know, sort of red lights go to green, just keep going, that sort of thing. And my husband works and runs all the national parks here in Australia. And he's just launched a thing with Matthew. And it's about freeing your spirit. And it's
beautiful.
It's amazing. So I would love to meet him in person because I just love the fact, I mean, his background, you know, he had a troubled childhood. I had a troubled childhood. Certain things shape you and everything. So, yeah, I would quite like to meet him, I think.
Quick, yell out. Where's Ian next door? Is he?
Yeah.
Get Matthew in. And finally, who would you like to see on my podcast? Do you know any other fellow late bloomer actors? Or could we go down the path of 6 degrees of separation? I'll throw out one name. Samuel L. Jackson is a late bloomer actor. Do you think you could reach out to Samuel L. Jackson through 6 degrees of separation, or do you have another actor in mind? Pressure's on.
There's actually another actor that I could reach out to. She would be a really good story here in Sydney. She's done amazing. She's actually a Scottish lady. She's from the UK, Scottish, but she's done amazing things actually. So I can certainly reach out to her for you because, yeah, no problem at all.
And the reason why I asked that question, and not more to try and get guests, but I think it opens up that understanding of how many people are out there trying to get on the same journey as us. I think it's brilliant. I just want that to people to know that, and it comes back to your statement just before, is, excuse my refrigerator in the background filling up. It gets back to your statement earlier on about just strive to be what you want, whether it's acting or any other career. You can do it. Just make sure it happens. Yeah,
there's a fellow actor in Adelaide. Actually, I think he's come back to Adelaide, so I can certainly put you in contact with him too. There's a few actually, to be honest with you, but you sort of meet people. But I agree with you, David. And he's probably what I call, you know, in the acting world they say late bloomers, and I mean we are late bloomers. Probably James is what I call late bloomer, but sort of the older end rather than the 20s, and the other lady's probably around my age too. So, you know, that's why I say I don't think there's any age on acting. That's the beautiful thing about it. So, and you, my friend, have done amazing as well. So in your career of acting, with running, you know, your job and your family and your boys are growing and everything like that. So, I mean, I bow down to you, David. You've just done an amazing thing with being a late bloomer too, and with all the stuff you've done. So,
and goes through the same ups and downs as everyone else, I think. So
yeah,
that's the hardest thing I find, is just the how and the why. How am I going to do this, or why am I doing this?
And why are you doing it?
Because I have fun doing it. So,
yeah.
And I stick to that. I think a lot of people say when you stop having fun, stop doing it.
Yeah.
So, on that note, Jacqui, thank you very much. This has been truly a wonderful 53 minutes of awesome.
Time
it goes so quick, does it? I was so worried that I would have moments in these podcasts where we had blank moments, nothing to talk about, or I'd be at 15 minutes and go, no more questions. But it's just nice and easy. So
yeah, thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to do this, and for also seeing your lovely face again. So I haven't seen it for a long time.
COVID's been terrible for everyone, hasn't it? So
I think the last time I saw you, how about that, was we tried to have a coffee, and it was in Adelaide Airport, and I was coming back to Sydney, and I actually saw you for a brief hello, quick cuddle, and then I was on the plane. So
yes, all with masks on, unfortunately, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, hopefully I'm still looking for my first professional job, and I've certainly got some opportunities coming up in Sydney, so it would be wonderful to be in Sydney and be on set with you, or just even to be in Sydney and see you. So
Well, the bed's always here. There's a room upstairs for you, so.
beautiful. I'll pass on my best to your wonderful husband
I will do.
for me.
Yes, he was set me up with all this techno stuff, so
I
God
love
bless
it.
him again.
Thank you, Jacqui. You look after yourself.
And you look after yourself and love to your family too.
Will do. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye.